edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live right now on the Field of 68, but this is Johnny Davis's world. He went for 37 points, 14 boards, 3 blocks, 2 assists, and 2 steals tonight in Mackey Arena as number 23 Wisconsin took down number 3 Purdue. To break it down with me, I have the one and only Randolph Childress, the Wake Forest legend, and Carter Elliott, who is, according to him, a Trevion Williams with Jameson flowing through his veins. What's going on, fellas? How we doing? How's your night?
I can't complain. I need to hear about Carter's night.
I'm doing all right. I'm coming off a nice flirting with a triple-double in my men's league game, and I'm also 1 for 1 on all my New Year's resolutions for this year. So off to a good start. Can't complain.
What are those? You can't just tee up those
right.
New Year's resolutions and not tell us what they are.
I'm working out before work in the morning, and I'm reading at least 10 pages of a book a day.
Wow. How long do you think that'll last, RC?
Thursday. I'll tell you right now, it's lasting Thursday.
I'm just going to give him a week. So I'm going to give you a week. I'll be like, I'll be over in about a week.
See, the reading the book thing, I think, is doable. That's 10 pages is nothing, man. But waking up every morning to work out before work, that's not me.
Just got to challenge myself somehow, some way.
You got to do that tomorrow after dark. That'll be tough.
Don't remind me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Wisconsin performance. Johnny Davis put together one of the, I think, the most impressive individual performances that we're going to see this season, one of the most impressive in a while. He had 35 points and 10 boards on the road in a win over a top 5 team. No one has done that since Gravis Vasquez did it back in 2009. Randolph, what do you make of Johnny Davis in this performance tonight?
I thought it was the best we've seen this year. 37 and 14 from a guard. Number 3 ranked team in the country on the road. I mean, that's he was dominant today, and it's not like it was a bunch of guys helping him. I mean, he single-handedly put Wisconsin on his back tonight, and I honestly think it was a player of the year caliber performance. Now we'll get into later whether he can get it or not, but if he carries them to the top 2 or 3 finish in the league, I think you'd have to give him a strong consideration for it, because that's the type of performance it's going to take for Wisconsin to sustain it.
Yeah, Carter, you think Wisconsin's good enough to make a run like that in the Big Ten?
To be honest, I think they are, just based purely off what Johnny Davis is doing right now. I mean, for starters, coming into this game, Purdue knew what Wisconsin is. It's Johnny Davis. He makes that team go, not only on offense, but on both ends of the floor. And he was doing that tonight. He was all over the glass. He was getting in passing lanes. He was getting steals, making plays. Whenever they needed a shot to stop those little mini Purdue runs, he was there to hit the big shot. I mean, that was just pure brilliance of what, a player of the year type candidate, Big Ten player of the year, national player of the year type candidate will put up. And it was a statement game by him, and it was impressive to watch.
Yeah, RC, I think what was really impressive to me was kind of the contrast between him and Jaden Ivey. Those are the 2 guys in that game that we're looking at as, the next level NBA prospects, potential lottery picks. And the pace at which Johnny Davis plays, the poise he has, he never gets sped up. He gets where he wants to go, and he's able to elevate and hit shots when he gets there. Whereas you look at Jaden Ivey, and this dude is 100 miles an hour all the time, which works really well in a lot of situations. But there are moments where you kind of wish that he had the poise in specific possessions that a guy like a Johnny Davis does.
If they plan on winning a national championship, he's going to have to adapt some playmaking ability. They're going to need him. Purdue's going to need Jaden Ivey to play more, as a playmaker at times, to do some facilitating. I'll tell you what I was shocked with. I was waiting for him at one point in the game to say, I got Johnny Davis, right? Like, this is my gym. I'm at home. It's a big game to watch. I wanted him to I would have loved for him to take more of a hands-on approach and say, hey, you know what? I got Johnny Davis. He's not scoring 37 or he's not dominating this game. And I was a little disappointed in that. I'm sure he'll get another shot. He'll respond. I'm not down on him. I think we all know how talented Jaden Ivey is. But considering you knew coming into this game that was the guy, I thought he would take more of a hands-on approach. Like, hey, he's not doing this in my building, and he didn't tonight.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that he was in foul trouble. I think he had 2 in like the first.
He did early.
And then picked up his 3rd early in the second half. But you're right. Like there's comes a certain point when you have to say no. That's not happening here. You're not doing
because
that.
Even late in the game, I get it early, but late in the game, Johnny Davis took over the game. Like he stuck the daggers in. Yeah, he took the game over. So I mean, I get he was in foul trouble, but when it mattered, And I get at times, Purdue, you may not want him on him for foul trouble. But the last 5 minutes of the game, you had 3. You got to step up and you got to take that matchup on.
Yeah, Carter.
I remember in the North Carolina game. I think it was the North Carolina game. Might have been the Villanova game where Jaden Ivey down the stretch, 5 minutes left. They were down in that game. He's getting the and ones. He's looking to the crowd. He's like, "This is my shit. Like this is my time to shine." And he's letting everybody know. And you were kind of just waiting for that moment in this game. Like RC said, there was foul trouble. There was things like that. But mentally, Jaden Ivey strikes me as a guy who, if I'm just looking at it from the outside looking in, he's a big time player. He likes to make big time plays. He's an alpha. He wants to shine. He wants everything, to kind of, make him look like he is the big time player that he is. So in that moment, there's an opportunity for you to step up and you let somebody else come into your arena and show you up. It wasn't just you versus him, but, he showed him up tonight and he was the best player on the floor. So, it's things like that you want to see out of Jaden Ivey down the stretch, but obviously foul trouble did hamper him in this game.
Yeah, I want to ask both of you guys this, and we're going to get into the National Player of the Year discussion and the Big Ten Player of the Year discussion in a little bit. In all of college basketball, though, I want to know, is there anybody right now that you would rather have over Johnny Davis in the last 3 minutes of a game where you really need a bucket? When you're RC, you coach for a long time. If you were calling a play right now, you needed a bucket in the last 30 seconds of a game, how many guys would you want on your roster? Would you want with the ball in their hands over Johnny Davis right now? Because I don't think that there's very many.
I can't think of any right now. He doesn't get sped up. His motor, his size, his ability to get his shot off. I don't know who I'd want right now as a guard that I want to close out a game. He wants it. Today on the road, that's a big game. We don't want to be prisoners in the moment, but man, he stepped up tonight and just kind of said, "Look, we're here." You just got to be impressed with that. He was the best player on the floor tonight.
I will willingly be a prisoner of the moment and say that Johnny Davis is the guy that you want at the end of the game. He's the closer in college basketball this year. We talked about it with IL last year, Carter. I think it's Johnny Davis this year.
Yeah, I was just about to say I'll be your cellmate in that prison of the moment because that is what it is. This was on the big stage. Everyone was talking about this, and he showed up tonight. I think if I had to pick one other person, though, I'd take Benedict from Arizona just because I like the way he scores as well and handle things. But that's the thing about Johnny Davis is it wasn't just 3-pointers tonight. He was in the post, mid-range, at the basket, attacking the rim, attacking the offensive glass. Defensive glass, 14 boards, out of a guard, basically. It was just an all-around impressive performance. I don't think you could take anybody over Johnny Davis right now at the end of the game.
But one thing I will say I think is going to happen to him again is that people's going to go into games now, and it's just not going to let them get it. They're going to say someone else has to beat us. And that's what scares me about Wisconsin, is that you're going to go in and scheme and say, look, we may lose, but we can't let Johnny Davis beat us.
Yeah. So we were able to catch up with Johnny Davis on the Wisconsin team flight, which looked like it was pretty empty. He's going to have some space to kind of stretch out, maybe get a nap. He earned that nap. He's going to get on the flight home. So our producer, Greg Waddell, is going to tee up that interview with Johnny Davis. All right, now let me welcome on to the field of 68 after dark, Johnny Davis, who was sitting there on the team plane after putting up 37 points and 14 rebounds at Purdue. Johnny, congratulations, man. How you feeling after that game?
Very relieved. It's not easy going in and beating the top 3 team in the country at their place. So I'd say most of them just really relieved that we got the W.
When did you realize that you were in something of a zone tonight? I remember I got a text midway through the second half that just said it's a Johnny Davis game tonight. So when was the moment that you realized, okay, I got it going?
I'd probably say as soon as I came out and stepped on the floor in the second half. Our offensive production in the first half was all right, but I knew we were going to need a little more because Purdue was going to amp up the pressure defensively. And I just came out and got to my spots.
I thought your defensive performance in the first half was really, really impressive. That's the number one offense in the country. You guys held them to 24 points. You really had to go in defensively in the first half. What was it about your game plan that worked against Purdue?
Game plan was, when Jaden Ivey gets the ball and he's coming down in transition, build a wall so he's not able to get into the lane and make the plays that he does. Close out to Stefanovic and their point guard Thompson. Don't let them get any open looks. Our bigs did the best they could on the inside. I thought they did a really good job on Shaedon, but, it's difficult guarding a guy who's like 7'5", 7'6" down low.
Yeah. Have you ever played against a guy that's that big?
I played against him a couple times before, but no, I don't. Actually, yes, I think Victor Wembanyama from France, or I can't even pronounce his last name, but from France, he's the only guy I've ever seen taller than him.
One of the things that we keep hearing about on a lot of these broadcasts is the impact that playing in those U19 events over the summer have for you guys. Is there any merit to that? Did that kind of help you figure things out, gain some confidence, put some stuff together heading into this season?
Yes, absolutely it did. I went down there, tried out with about, 29, 30 of the best players in the country. And I competed with them and I made the team, and it just showed me that, I belong there.
Right. Does it feel like you're better? I mean, a lot of people are kind of waking up and taking notice to who you are right now. Do you feel that? Do you feel more attention on you this season?
I don't really pay too much attention to the attention that I get in the season. I'm just coming out with my guys every night and, trying to get the W.
All right, let me just ask you then about the threes that Brad Davidson hit down the stretch. There were a couple of real big shots. I think he hit one and then you hit one 2 possessions later that really were daggers. Well, what's better? What's a better shot for you? When you hit a 3 at home and the crowd goes nuts, or when you hit that big 3 on the road and everybody just goes completely silent?
That's a good question. I'd probably say, when you're away and you hit the big 3 and the whole stadium just goes quiet for, that brief moment, because, you kind of just suck the life out of them with the shot that you just hit.
Right. All right. This is the last one I got for you. We hear on all of these broadcasts over and over again how you were a very good high school quarterback. If you could have gone and played in college, do you think that you would be playing right now in the national title game? Is that where you would be?
If I was playing quarterback, I would hope to envision myself there, but
come on, you just had 37 and 14 in Mackey. You can say it. You can say it.
Yeah, definitely. Football, I was always considering playing in college, but once my brother suffered some season-ending injuries, my parents kind of, persuaded us to go one way more than the other. I honestly think I was with basketball all the way, though. But now, if I was playing football, I'd probably be up there in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, that's the way you got to say it, man. Listen, Johnny, congratulations on the win. Enjoy this flight home. It looks like those private flights are kind of empty. Maybe you get some leg room and you could be able to spread out, get some space, maybe take a nap. You earned this one, man. So thank you for joining us.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
All right, so we've talked quite a bit about Johnny Davis tonight. Brad Davidson, I mentioned him in the interview with Johnny. He had 15 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, hit a couple of big threes down the stretch. He's averaging 14 points this season. Those are really the 2 guys for Wisconsin. So, RC, I'm going to go to you first on this, Carter. I want you on this too. Does Wisconsin need a 3rd guy if they really want to be able to compete in the Big Ten? You can't rely on Johnny Davis getting you 37 every single night.
They're going to have to. And the question is, where does it come from? If the tempo, particularly if teams are going to press them and force tempo, you can't rely on him scoring 37. I know they put up 74 tonight. That's probably the max of where they want to go as far as the pace of the game. I mean, and I don't know where the points are going to come from. I mean, they're going to have the bodies to be able to go against the bigs in this league, against Kofi and against, Hunter Dickinson and those other guys and all the bigs in the league. I just don't know where the scoring is going to come from. I mean, where? I mean, who's going to do it? I mean, where's it going to come from? I really don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking about it because that was one of the most surprising things about the game tonight is, Coach Painter is such a great coach. And I just didn't expect him to let one player come in and light him up and beat him like that. It just didn't, that's something that happens to teams that I don't consider good. So it was surprising to see from Purdue, but I don't really know who that third guy could be. I mean, people say it could be Chucky, but he just strikes me as more as just a defensive guy. But if he could pitch in like 10 points, something now, and then right now he doesn't even look to shoot, barely shoots at all. But eventually they're going to have some guys step up. I know Lauren Bowman, he's actually a Michigan guy. So I saw him play in high school a little bit. He's a really good scorer. He sat out last season with some issues, but I know he could really fill it up in high school. But they got to find somebody because I know a lot of coaches saw that game today and they're like, we're not going to let Johnny Davis beat us. I would not be surprised if you see like some boxing one type situations and just do not let him catch the ball.
Yeah, I want it to be Tyler Wall, but Tyler Wall has to actually make a three this season for him to be considered like the number. He's over 16 on the year.
Is that a confidence thing with him, or is it just he's just shooting them because people are down? I'm like, I don't know quite yet. Is he just getting off to a slow start? But with a guy like Johnny Davis out there getting scoring as much and drawing the attention, he's getting looks.
Yeah, I think he shot. I mean, look, his career heading into the season, he was shooting 25% from three.
Yeah.
So like 0% is a lot worse than 25%. Carter, I know that's tough math for you, but it is. I promise you don't have to calculator out. But he's not a great shooter. I want him to be the guy though. But let's pivot a little bit to Purdue because you said something interesting there, Carter. You would have expected Purdue to find a way to get the stops that they needed to get. I think if you're going to make an argument on why this Purdue team cannot win a national title, it's because of the issues that they have on the defensive end of the floor. Right now, after that performance, they are ranked number 70 on Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency metric. That's not going to be good enough. They're not quite what Iowa was last season, but they're giving off some slight Iowa Hawkeyes 2020, 2021 vibes to me. So how can they get better defensively? Because right now that's their biggest issue. Am I right, Carter?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising because I think that they should be a lot better with the type of athletes that they have on the floor. Now, you have guys like Edey and Travion, not necessarily, guys you look to like kind of switch on defense, but look, they can clog up space in the middle. Jaden Ivey is an unbelievable athlete. I think he has a whole nother level he can tap into defensively with the wingspan he has, and the athleticism, the intensity he has. Guys like Hunter, Thompson, they get up in you. I think they should be better defensively. It's kind of a little perplexing that they're not better defensively, which is why I said before, like it was very surprising to see a Matt Painter coach team with the kind of defensive ability that they can have come out there and put a performance up like this against a team in Wisconsin who, at the end of the day, they're Johnny Davis, and then you get something else from the other guys, but they are by no means an offensive powerhouse. So, you let them come into your house and put up 70-something high 70s in points. It's not a good sign moving forward.
I thought we saw the writing on the wall with the NC State game. I mean, I thought that's what NC State did. They just had better athletes, particularly on the perimeter. I mean, they're big, but one of the issues they're going to have with that too is that you're going to either play Williams or you're going to play Zach. Travion, one of those guys you can't play them together. So of your three best players, you're going to have two of them, they just kind of flip-flop it. You're going to have one or the other. So unless they're planning on going zone, which they're not going to do much of, and even still, I don't know how you're going to get athletic, more athletic during the course of the year when two of your best players are your bigs, and they just play with they kind of sub each other in and out. They're not playing together on the floor. So I don't know how you get better with that. I mean, you're going to hedge ball screens. You're not going to. You're going to play in drops. You're not going to hedge. You can switch a little bit more with Williams on the floor, but again, if they're going to take a step, again, Jaden Ivey can't allow another guard to go for 37 against them with his athletic ability.
Yeah, there has to be some pride there, right? That says I'm going to win this matchup one-on-one. You could be as good of an athlete as you want to be. If you don't have that, if you don't want to be the guy that gets to stop every single possession, that's something that's not going to work. But I think the other issue that they have is their point guard play is just not like it's not. I don't want to hammer these guys too hard, but it's not the level that you would want it to be. The issue, we kind of touched on this a little bit. I can't remember if we said it on air or not, but like Jaden Ivey is a guy that just wants to go, right? He doesn't really stop and process what he's looking at. He's going to get the ball and he's going to try to go to the rim and he's going to try to go make a play, which is great when you're getting up and down in transition and you can kind of play in the open floor. When you get into the half court, you can't really do that. You kind of have to have a sense of what you're driving into, where this offense is going to be in front of you. There was one play that sticks out in my mind. He ran off that double screen on the baseline, gets the ball in the corner, drives to the baseline again, and tries to throw a pass to Zach Edey, but those are like 90 miles an hour with Zach Edey about 3 feet away from him, and it almost hit him in the face. And like you can't do that. If you're Jaden Ivey, you have to have a better feel for what is happening in that moment. And to me, that's the biggest issue. When things kind of get to a possession where they can't get something out of their offense, who's going to step up and make that play? And Jaden Ivey has to be that guy. And Carter, to date, he hasn't really done that as consistently as we would like.
Yeah, like you said, you love a player who at all times is playing extremely hard and going full speed. But that's not always what you need to do, especially down the stretch of the ball game. It's not all just go, head down. And Purdue would really benefit. We're not even asking for just like some unbelievable point guard play, just something steady. I can't really point to what Purdue's point guards actually, do very well. They do like little things here and there, but they don't really do one thing particularly well. And it'd be great if you could just throw it to them and they could be a guy who could slow the offense down, get things in order, because Jaden Ivey, like you said, is always just 100 miles an hour all the time. But the only thing they can do to slow their offense down is throw it in the post. So basically, you slow Jaden Ivey down, they're just going to throw it in the post. There's no other type of offense outside of that. And also, you have a dynamic guard like Jaden Ivey, and you can't trust him with the ball down the stretch because he's going too fast, and that hurts him.
Yeah, and look, they get a lot of stuff out of the sets that they run. But it's also the kind of thing where if you're switching, and we've seen this with teams in the past, where if you're switching, you can kind of take them out of their sets and take them out of what they can scheme and the shots that they're able to create out of just running offense, RC, then you kind of run into a little bit of an issue where you don't have someone that you just kind of give it to and say, go make a play.
But I think that's when Travian gets going, because he's the guy that punishes the mismatch, right? So when you start switching, I think tonight we saw Zach playing, and he was going well. He had a double-double tonight. He had it going. But Williams would be the guy that punishes the switches. So then when you got a guard on him, he's a really good passer. So he's passing it out of the double teams, and they're looking for that. So I think that's the weapon, and that's how they're going to attack the teams that switch on. I mean, he can be a matchup nightmare. I'll come to the defense of their point guard play, though. I think it's hard for the point guards to be so actively involved because this team plays inside out. And we just talked about Jaden Ivey not being necessarily a great passer, and it can be a little bit out of control. I think some of it with Thompson and those guys coming in, that's their job, just to slow down, get us in the offense. Don't turn it over, because they can ill afford to get into turnovers and get into an up and down game, because that's not their strength. Now, you would want them maybe to be a little bit aggressive, pushing it in transition, but they don't have it. I think that's what they're doing. They're not getting enough volume and usage to be really effective in his offense. I think their job is to say, hey, throw the ball inside to Williams. Throw it, Ivy, you come off, you go make a play, and just kind of play off those guys. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, and to your point, if Wisconsin is able to, if Purdue is able to slow down Johnny Davis, then their offense doesn't matter in this game. They did everything else they needed to do defensively, except, stop the guy that went for 37 and had 25 in the second half. All right, I want to pivot a little bit because we just watched Iowa knock off Maryland. They did not cover, Greg, which is unfortunate for some of us. Thanks, Bet Rivers. I gave some of my money back to you tonight. But Keegan Murray, he went for 35 points, 8 boards, 3 blocks, 5 for 6 from 3. On my podcast, the DTF podcast today with John Fanta and Terrence Oglesby, we talked about our midseason All-Americans, and it was very difficult to kind of limit it to just 3 guys on the first team from the Big Ten, between Johnny and E.J. Liddell and Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey and Trevion and Keegan and Kofi Coburn. There's Alfonso Plummer. There are a lot of really, really good players in this Big Ten. So, RC, I'm going to you first on this one. Is Johnny Davis the guy? If you're building a team in the Big Ten right now, is Johnny Davis the guy?
He is for me. I mean, I strive with him, and I think it's close between he and E.J. Liddell. I think those 2 guys have been the best 2 players in the league. But if I'm starting a team, I'm going to go, I think from the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Johnny Davis.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that. I'm going Johnny Davis as well. 3-level scorer, a guy who gets you stops on defense. I mean, he's a very complete player. I mean, I know NBA scouts got to be watching this. Like when you draft this guy, because I think he's a lottery pick at this point. He's shown that you're drafting a guy who's complete at all 3 levels of the game, scoring wise, and you're getting somebody defensively who's going to compete and make plays on that end. Like that's a plug and play lottery pick guy right now. So. And he's showing that. So I think he's Big Ten Player of the Year. And that's not just based off, today's game. He's shown that all year.
It's crazy when you say that. And I'm not disagreeing with either of you guys, but it's crazy when you say that. And the Big Ten has a guy on a top 20 team that is the 4th best scorer in the country and the 3rd best rebounder in the country in Kofi Cockburn. He's not a guy that we're even really considering for Player of the Year or even Big Ten Player of the Year. And neither is Keegan Murray, who just had 35 and 8 boards tonight. On the season, he is leading the country in scoring. He's averaging, before the 35 he had tonight, he was averaging 23.7 points, shooting almost 60% from the floor, over 80% from the free throw line with 8.2 boards, 2.0 blocks, and 1.6 steals. It's the amount of talent in that conference is it's ridiculous. I can't think of a league that had this much high level talent and this many star players in it as the Big Ten does.
You got to give those guys credit. I mean, we talk about even Kofi. He should get more credit, with the injuries, with the guards in the backcourt that he's had to deal with Kubler being out. I mean, he's just been a force, and he's carried those guys to an early 9-3 record. I mean, he's been outstanding. So you have to give him credit. No, definitely, to EJ. The big fella. So, and then Liddell, I mean, he's been really solid for Ohio State with not a lot of help, a lot of consistent guys. His numbers have been dominant. So we're seeing a lot of guys, just like we talked about Johnny Davis. There's a lot of guys in this league that are stepping up and carrying their teams when they need to, with guys being out, so many injuries or whatever the case may be, more so in the Big Ten than any other league.
Yeah, I think one thing, though, the one thing that I do knock with Kofi, because I think the stats are there this year, but we've been talking this whole time about like these statement games and the big games where they kind of show that. For me, when I look back on the chances that, Kofi's had to make his statement games, I think he struggled against Coloco and Arizona a little bit. Frazier and Plummer played extremely well in the game. I think he struggled a little bit in that game with the length at the rim. So it's just, I don't think Kofi's had that statement game yet with Curbelo out against, some high-level competition. But, I mean, you could say the same thing with Keegan Murray. He hasn't necessarily played the hardest schedule, but, at the same time, he's still putting up 30 points a game, and he just scored 35 on Maryland. So a lot of talent in the Big Ten, but the statement games matter. Johnny Davis had a big game against Houston, too, and he's almost kind of single-handedly beat them, too. So, I mean, he's had himself some statement games.
We need a phrase for that. Because football's got Heisman moments, right? College basketball needs, like, what do we have for a Heisman? Well, you can't say wooden moments because there's the 17 different Player of the Year awards. What do we need?
Naismith moment. Have call it a Naismith moment.
Naismith moment, but it's the wooden award is the one everyone talks about.
Yeah, yeah.
We need something. We got to come up with this. Carter, you're creative. I need you to think about this.
I'm actually not creative. I literally feed off of my co-host Greg's creativity, and I steal it for myself and just use it. I'm not really creative like that.
Hey. That was my move too.
It's always the best. It's the way to go.
No shame in the game. All right. So do we all agree right now that Johnny Davis is probably the National Player of the Year front runner? Are we there?
I'm going to say he's up there. I'm still going with Wendell Moore, but I got. I mean, after tonight's performance, I can't argue, but I still have Wendell Moore.
He's a. Let's put it like this. He is.
It's 1 and 1A. It's 1 and 1A with me.
All right, so I got some facts. I've been teasing this that I got some facts for you guys for a while. So since 2005, right, the last 16 players that have won the AP National Player of the Year award, which is pretty much like the consensus National Player of the Year award, right? 12 of them have been on a team that was either a number 1 or a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Obi Toppin, I'm calling a number 2 seed because they would have been. I think they were. Either a 1 or a 2 seed in all of the projections before the season was canceled. So I'm giving Obi Toppin that one. The ones that weren't was in 2014, Doug McDermott on Creighton was a 3 seed, averaged like 27 points a game. In 2011, Jimmer Fredette at BYU was a 3 seed, averaged like 30 points a game. In 2007, Kevin Durant was a 4 seed for Texas, averaged 25 and 12 or something ridiculous in the in the Big 12 as a one and done. The only other guy on that list is Trey Burke, who averaged something like 19-6 on a team that ended up as a 4 seed, that was a top 5 team for much of the season, that made it to the national title game. So that's the level that you need to be, the level of team you need to be on to win a National Player of the Year award, according to everything that we've seen in the one and done era. So my question to you guys is Wisconsin on a team that is good enough for Johnny Davis to kind of hit that level of precedence?
I don't think so, because I think that there's still a lot of good teams to play in this Big Ten tournament. I'm sorry, not in the Big Ten schedule. Like, this was great, but Wisconsin still is 1-1 in the Big Ten. They lost pretty bad to Ohio State. So there's gonna be a lot of games that they play. I don't know if he's necessarily gonna reach the high success of those guys stat wise, but also I don't know if this team is going to reach that point, especially with the focus that's going to be on him moving forward. So I don't really see him or want to throw his name yet. And I don't think it could reach the point of those players that you just named.
Yeah. And for the record, according to Bracket Matrix right now, Wisconsin's projected as something of a 6 seed. So that's kind of where they are right now. RC, what do you think?
I think until they get a consistent third score, I think it's going to be tough for him. I think it puts too much pressure on him. I mean, he had like I said, an outstanding game tonight. I just don't know where the third score and the consistent base is going to come from. Because if I'm coming against him next, I'm scheming it. I'm not going to allow him to beat us. If he, I'm picking him up. I'm denying him. I'm letting other. Now again, Wisconsin does have other guys that can make shots, so he's going to be able to pass the ball to other guys that can shoot the ball. They're going to have to step up, but from a consistent scoring standpoint, I don't see the third guy, and I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I think Johnny Davis is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, but there's so many good players. Like, go through, people listening right now, go through and do it yourself. Do this exercise. Go try to put together an AP All-American first team. Come up with 5 guys and see how difficult it is to whittle that list down. When I did it, there were 13 guys on my list, right? There were 13 names that I was like, these have to be somewhere in the top 10. All of them deserve consideration for that first team. So it's hard to do. Now I want to ask you guys this. I got more facts. I got more info. It's a little bit of trivia for you. Who was the last player that was not on a team that finished as a top 4 seed to win the AP Player of the Year award? Either you guys got it? You should be able to know. It was in 2005.
No.
Played in the Mountain West.
Oh, then hell no.
I think he was
I don't know about that one.
He was the number 1 pick in the draft that year.
Wow.
His head coach was Rick Majerus. He's a 7-footer from Australia that won NBA.
Andrew Bogut.
Yeah, Andrew Bogut was the last guy. He was the number 1 pick. The last guy that wasn't a top 4 seed, wasn't on a top 4 seed to win the National Player of the Year award, was before the one and done era had begun, and was the number 1 pick. So that's the precedence. I'm not saying that Johnny Davis can't get it done, but that's the precedence that has been set.
That Mountain West threw me off because Utah's in the Pac-12.
It definitely threw me off.
Yeah, I knew that would get you. I knew that would get you guys. So speaking of the Pac-12, that's a perfect segue. Look at that, Carter, coming through for me. Arizona. We had Arizona back in action tonight. They didn't really want to play defense until the second half, but once they kind of turned it on, they ran away from Washington. They ended up winning by 16. Benedict Mathurin had 27 points. Dalen Terry came about as close to a triple-double as you can get without getting. I think he had 13, 11, and 9 tonight. Where do you guys stand on this team? It's hard to know. It's hard to know what the other contenders in the Pac-12 are, because UCLA and USC have both been on a pause for what feels like the entire season.
Right.
But where do you stand on this Arizona team, what they are this season and what they could be moving forward?
I mean, we talked about that Tennessee game. I thought they had a hell of an impression against that. They got some tough calls and a lot of bad whistles going against them, but I like them. They got some size. They got some length. I mean, Benedict is the real deal. I mean, he's a guy that I think can etch into this conversation that we're talking about as far as player of the year. I mean, he's putting up numbers. They're going to have to defend a little better, than they have on a consistent basis, but they compete. I mean, they have what you want. I mean, Koloko is been a force inside defensively, and they got scoring. They got enough guys that can score the basketball, so they're well coached. I mean, the cover wasn't bare. We talked about that. We teased Sean about that, but I mean, I like the team. I think they got a chance of going, making a deep run. They got some depth with them. We'll see. I mean, we just don't know what the Pac-10 is going to present, what options is going to be. What threats are there besides USC and UCLA? We know the UCLA is legit, but outside of that, we don't know who else they're going to play.
Hey, Carter, did you hear that Pac-10 reference in there?
I did hear that. I know it was going to be you who's going to say it or me, but I did hear the Pac-10 reference. No, but with this Arizona team, like we talked about them all year. It's been impressive. I mean, like RC said, even in that Tennessee game, I thought it was impressive even, in a loss because the way they competed, they were down, they were on the road, tough calls going their way. It was still impressive as a team. Tommy Lloyd, I think should be in every conversation for coach of the year right now. I think how he has that team playing is pretty impressive, especially, just having them all play together, and they're just so fun and they compete every single night. But I will say, just because UCLA is on pause doesn't mean you should forget about the Bruins. The Bruins are still a really good team. They fall into that area of teams that are really good. Like people mentioned the Dukes. They were mentioning Purdue. It's probably not going to do it as much. Duke, Gonzaga. But UCLA falls into that category of teams that are really good that get kind of overlooked. Like people don't mention Kansas as much as I think they should. And I don't think they mention UCLA as much as I think they should. This is a team that's returning
they haven't
Final
played,
Four run.
Like it's been forever. Played. They don't play.
I'm just what are they? Okay, so because they had COVID, we're holding it against them. They're still really good.
No, you're right, but you got to see them play. They got to get back on the court. And
we always talk about Kansas.
Hold on, real quick, RC, for the record. Breaking news coming from Matt Norlander: UCLA's game Wednesday against Arizona State is off because Arizona State has COVID, which is just we're never going to see UCLA play again.
God damn,
they got an inter squad scrimmage.
Stay out of the Tempe streets. We want to see them hoop.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who they're gonna. I mean, how long has it been? Has it been about 2-3 weeks with those guys?
I think it's been longer. I'm gonna figure it out right now. The last game that they played, December 11th against Marquette. So
right now, you both are picking Arizona to win Pac-12.
I think that I probably would, simply because we've seen what happens with teams that come off of COVID pauses at the start. Like it takes you a little while to kind of get your legs back and get into game shape. It's almost, I don't want to say it's like restarting your season, but it's not like you're jumping back into it in midseason form. And Arizona right now is in midseason form. So I think that is an advantage for three teams that are all right there. So that's why I would probably pick Arizona at this point. But it's all going to come down to what happens when they play. We're probably looking at a situation where those three teams are going to be like 18-2, 17-3, 16-4, depending on what they do in their head-to-heads. And can we just hope, please, if there's anyone from the Pac-12 listening, make sure we get all of those games made up. College basketball needs UCLA, Arizona. Again,
I don't know how they do it though. Once we get into January and conference play starts, I mean, you get one makeup game. Like, when did you make it up?
Well, I mean UCLA and Arizona. Like, how far is Arizona from Los Angeles? Right, like it's only like a 2-hour drive. Just send the bus over there for one weekend. Cancel.
Well, you talking about that particular game?
No one wants to see them play Oregon State. Just get rid of that.
Someone said this to me before. I don't know.
When we say make up, we mean make up the Pac-12 games people want to see. You can keep the Oregon State games.
Someone said this to me. Ty Stedney said this to me years ago, and I don't know if this has changed. But they fly commercial. So are they still doing that?
Some schools still are. Some schools are now flying charters in the Pac-12, but that was part of the issue that UCLA had when they were looking to hire coaches, is that they weren't chartering, which is like, it's UCLA. Like that. How are you not chartering when you're UCLA?
But I was blown away when he told me that, and I talked to most of the people in the conference, and he was like, "Yo, we just fly commercial. We'll fly in, play the game, everyone stays. Then you book up the flights." And I'm like, wow. And so I only say that to say, if that's the case now, that makes it even more difficult to reschedule the games.
Yeah, RC's been spending living that PJ life for too long, man. He can't slum with us and coach anymore.
I was gonna say, he has no Spirit tickets in his Apple Wallet, nothing like that.
Nah.
Only the finest flights.
Nah.
Now I have a real question though, RC. So Tommy Lloyd gets in at Arizona and takes over the a new team, a new coaching staff, a brand new style of play. Like how difficult is that to do? To come in and get these guys that you didn't recruit, that you didn't bring to the program, that probably don't really have too much of a relationship with you, to get them to buy in and start playing at this level this quickly?
I think the big thing for him is coming from Gonzaga, right? And it's been an elite program. So he's coming in with a level of credibility where these guys are like, all right, this guy's done it. Sometimes it's more difficult when it happens when you're a mid-major program, or you're I call it flavor of the month coach, when you've done well at a lower level conference. And then you come up, the guys are like, all right, some people will start saying, well, you haven't done it at this level. Well, he's coming from Gonzaga. So there was a level of success there that's been among the best programs in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think coming through the door, he had a level of credibility with the recruiting and the players that they had at Gonzaga that kind of gave him the cachet to walk through the door and say, hey, just let's try it this way, and you get buy-in. And Arizona's a transfer destination as well. Mm-hmm. With the portal opening up right now, I mean, that's not a bad place to transfer in. And so there are always going to be a place now that if you're a top player in the country now, you're going to look at Arizona.
Yeah, and what else?
I think I was just going to say, I think another good part about it is also the style of play that he's kind of implementing. It makes it a little easier to buy in. You know what I'm saying? If he was coming there and trying to, instill like a Virginia offense or something like that, then there might be a little backlash to it. But sometimes change is good. Like, you know what I'm saying? You get a little bit change, you get a little new offense, you get to do freedom. They're playing defense, they're getting on and running, they're competing, they're talking shit. That's a lot of fun, so it makes it a little easier to buy into a concept like that.
Yeah, they are fourth nationally in pace. They are first nationally in offensive possession length. All they want to do is run. It's fun to play. And I'll tell you, what else really helps? They won their first game by 29. They won their second game by 54. They won their third game by 52. Then they went and they beat Wichita State in overtime. Then they went and they beat Michigan. Shout out to Greg Waddell, by 18 points. So when you have that success, you're playing a fun style. You have that success, and it's a guy that has won a lot of games. Like that makes the job a little bit easier for you to listen to.
They're dangerous because he lets those guys play. He gives them confidence to shoot. We talked about this after the Tennessee game. They shoot like I did, actually, a little bit too much confidence at times, and that's a great thing. And so those guys are always going to be in games because they're going to take shots that, whether we think they're good or bad, they're going to take them anyway, and they're going to force the pace. But when they're making shots, they're going to be a tough out.
I got to say, I am shocked that RC would like playing for a coach that let him shoot.
Everyone loves playing for a coach that lets them shoot. You got to shoot. Hey, part of shooting, coming from a shooter myself, is confidence. Now, I'm not a good shooter, but I'm confident as hell when I let it fly. Now, it doesn't go in all the time, but out of my hand, I think it's going in. That's part of it. So that's what you see with this Arizona team. And I know it's not tracked, but I guarantee you, if you go back and look at the film, this Arizona team leads the country in getting a bucket and letting the team know that they just got a bucket too. And that's just fun. Kurt Kriisa, I love that dude. He's the best. Yeah,
they got a lot of guys that know that they're good. And I like it when guys, and look, RC, we know what it's like to let people know about that.
I don't mind a little talking. You guys know that. I don't mind talking at all. More the merrier.
All right, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot with something right now. All right, I'm gonna pretend that both of you are NBA GMs. You are picking, I don't know, like the seventh pick in the draft. You need a big time wing. Jaden Ivey's on the board. Johnny Davis is on the board. Ben Mathurin is on the board. Who are you taking?
RC, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I think we got to go with the guy we just talked about, but go ahead. I'll let you go first.
I'm taking Mathurin personally. I think that's who I would want on my team. I think he is, to me, a better 3-level scorer than Johnny Davis. I don't know if he's as good defensively, but that man can fill it up from everywhere on the court. And I think he's an alpha too. And he's a guy who can give it down the stretch, go get a bucket. I think that's why I'm picking on my team. And also he's shown, like Johnny Davis, a great, trajectory of improvement as well. So I think out of those three right now, that's who I would take for my team.
I can't argue with it. I just think he has a little bit more dudes, with him. And I'm not knocking him. I wouldn't be mad if you pick one at 7, I take the other one at 8. I'm just really impressed with everything that I've heard about Johnny Davis with the type of kid he is from an intangible standpoint, a tireless worker. Young man's always in the gym. That's something that will matter to me if I'm drafting him. And I'm not saying what else is it? Keegan isn't it either. I mean, he's leading the nation in scoring, and we're talking about him. But I think he would be the bottom guy of those three only because I think his lower percentage is shooting the ball. I think the other guys are just better three-level scorers than Keegan right now.
All right, actually, no, I'll give my answer too. I think I would probably take Jaden Ivey. And the only reason I would do that is because in the draft, I kind of tend to lean towards taking the guys with the highest upside, simply because I think, like, if Ben Mathurin, what do we expect him to be, right? Probably like a good starter, high-level guy, 3-and-D. That's probably what he ends up being at the next level, right? A high-level role player. I think it's easier to find a guy like that than it would be to find what Jaden Ivey could be if he hits. Even if it ends up being like a 15% of the time outcome, Jaden Ivey, I think, has a chance to be a star in the NBA. And I don't know if Ben Mathurin or Johnny Davis has that same ceiling. And when it comes to the draft, I think you shoot for the stars. You try to go get yourself a Giannis, even if it means sometimes you're going to get an Alec Pokusevski, right? That's just kind of
I agree with you, but where you're picking is going to matter. I think that's the difference. And you're saying like a lottery, and we just talked about it with Jaden. I mean, I think we talking about an athlete and everything like everyone else. It's just a situation you're talking about drafting these guys into. I just feel like of those three guys, I think we know what we're getting with Johnny more than we know with everyone else. And that's what I would draft. I just want to know what I'm getting. I think that Jaden Ivey's ceiling could be a little higher, but we're also talking about a young man right now that's probably more of a better athlete than he is a basketball player right now. And he's a heck of an athlete, and I'm not questioning his ability to play, basketball. I think he's a heck of a talent. But I would, I think I would take more of what my eyes tell me I see certain. I'm certain about.
Yeah, and for the record, I just want to get it out there before anybody comes at me about this. I love all three of those players.
Right.
They're
Right.
all awesome. Okay,
Right.
They're all very, very good, and they're going to play in the NBA for a long time. And I'm really excited that we get to watch them for another 3 months here before we send them off to the professional ranks. All right, we're going to turn this thing forward. We're going to talk a little bit about what we got going on coming up. Well, I think specifically tomorrow night, I want to start with it's a chance for two teams in the SEC to kind of prove something. I think we don't really know what Kentucky is at this point, and I think we don't really know what LSU is at this point in the season. They are playing each other tomorrow. As of this very moment, that line at our partners over at Bet Rivers is LSU -1. That total is, let me bring it back up, is 139.5. So I want to know not just kind of how you see this game playing out, but how important is this, Carter, for both of these teams? Because LSU doesn't have a win over a team ranked in the top 50. We've seen Kentucky lose to Notre Dame. Their best wins are blowouts against teams that I don't think any of us really are all that, like, none of us are really all that impressed with North Carolina. I know that for a fact because we've talked about that before on the show. So how much do these two teams have to prove in this game tomorrow night?
Oh, they got to prove a lot. I mean, you just said it all right there. You go through these teams' resumes, and I still am searching for an answer on how the hell Kentucky lost to Notre Dame. I would still love an answer if anyone out there has one. Please let me know. But both these teams need statement wins. We've seen this whole year with LSU, even in particular, we're seeing a Will Wade team that's buying in defensively. And yes, you heard that right. The connection is right. Will Wade's team right now is playing extremely well defensively. I can't believe it either. So this is a big statement game for these teams, and especially with Kentucky, because it's one of those teams coming into this season. They had so many new pieces that were coming into the team. And this is kind of the level you want to see. Once you get to this point, once you get the SEC play, you want everything clicking. So you want the Shea playing well. You want Kellen Grady playing well. You want all these guys on your team, the Ties, the Wheelers, everyone playing well as a team and coming together and buying in. So it's a statement for both these teams, and they really need it. So I am leaning Kentucky if you were going to ask that next, but I'd be interested to see what you guys got to say about it.
I think all the guys you just talked about are playing better, though. I think Kellen Grady is playing better. Wheeler's playing better. We talked about him early on. One of the concerns about him was he always had a high turnover rate. If he cuts his turnovers down and stays, at 2, I'll give him 2. If he keeps it 2 or below, they're going to be a tough team to beat. And I think Washington has to get going for those guys. I would lean more toward Kentucky right now than LSU. I think LSU is a good team. Like you said, they are defending. I'm a big fan of Gaines as well. I think he's playing well. Efton Reed's coming along, Days and those guys. This is his team now, from losing Cam, from last year, Cam Thomas. And so I'm interested to see how this game turns out. I can't believe that LSU is going to be favored in that. It has to be in Baton Rouge if that's the case. But I think Kentucky's going to come in. I expect Kentucky to come in and get it. I think they're going to get the game.
Yeah, it's tough for me. To answer your question about how Kentucky lost, Carter, Notre Dame didn't guard Severe Wheeler. They basically just stood the guy like 8 feet off of him. I think it was
Blake in the paint.
Yeah,
set him in the paint.
And so they had that automatic help on Sheway, which made it difficult to kind of get the ball into him. And that's kind of what Kentucky has become this season. They basically play 4 around 1. Now, for me, their ceiling, I said this today, I think their ceiling depends on Keon Brooks, right? Like at this point, we kind of know what Kellen Gray, he's shooting 50% from 3 for the record this season, which is not bad. Carter, that's 50% from 3.
Yeah, if I carry the one, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. We know what Sheway is. Ty Washington has been good. I think he's getting better. I think he still has room to grow. I think that's where they take a jump. Obviously, Severe Wheeler kind of is what he is. He's going to have his moments. There's going to be points where he struggles. To me, they need Keon Brooks to like be a guy, right? To be that kind of 4-man that we talk about as being a potential all SEC kind of a guy. Shoot better than 3 for 14 from 3. Make shots. Make it so that you don't have 3 guys basically. The way it is right now, Severe Wheeler's man and Keon Brooks, man, can all sag off and do whatever they need to do in the paint on Sheway. So that's where it kind of comes from with this Kentucky team. That's where they take that next step because they've been playing better. They're blowing people out now. They weren't doing that earlier this season. They're blowing people out.
Yeah.
What about Sharp enrolling early? What about Sharp? You think he'll enroll early?
I'm curious your take on this, RC, because if I'm Kentucky, I want to find a way to get him playing, right? Just kind of selfishly, because I think that he's a talented player and he'll help. If Shaedon Sharp is asking me what my advice would be, I always say you don't have to rush it, man. I don't even know if you need to enroll early. Like I'm kind of always against this idea of rushing the process, right? Like you can run your race at your own pace. You don't have to get there early. We've seen what happens with a guy like Imani Bates who gets there early and he's not quite ready for it. And all of a sudden the narrative goes from being, Imani's got a really good prospect that could play in the NBA for a while to being like, Memphis is better without him. Like it's very easy to kind of poison what the narrative is, to poison the noise around you as a player. And how often does it actually work? Like when guys enroll early and then try to contribute, like it didn't go great for Hamidou Diallo when he was at Kentucky. We saw it with Devin Askew. He didn't do great. Derek Thornton, that didn't go well. Christian Lander at Indiana. Like how often does it actually work that you get there early, you play early, and it works out better than what it would have if you just ran your race at the normal pace?
You know what it does at time, to be quite honest with you? It exposes guys because all you end up doing is transferring or reclassing back into the grade you already in. I mean, let's just call it what it is. No one has ever just, finished high school in 3 years and been eligible to go to college. So the only way that works is if you were reclassed back anyway, and then you were old enough to graduate and go back into the class that you were already in. So I just more so look at it like some guys just get exposed. I mean, some guys come in at 17, 18 years old, and some guys coming in at 19 or 20. I mean, no one really cares, but it matters from a professional standpoint when you're looking at them or when you're looking at their ceiling. But guys that we say, hey, whether they come in early or not, let's be honest. It just means they reclassed, they reclassed before, and now they're coming back into the grade they were already in.
Right. There's no pros for him. If he comes in, he's the number 1, number 2 player in his recruiting class. He comes in and he does what he did in high school, gets buckets. Okay, that's what it is. But on the other hand, like you guys mentioned with some of those players, the floor, all you're doing is hurting yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's just the cons outweigh the pros in this situation in my eyes. So to quote the great Rob Dauster, run your race. I can't believe I just actually quoted him on this show.
Yeah, if you get a start with them from the very beginning, I'd say you can do it. But coming in December trying to do it, I just think you're too far behind the 8 ball trying to catch up with everything doing that. That's a difficult thing.
Yeah, that's the other part about like you're walking into a team that's already set.
Right.
You know, we see how difficult it is. How many times have we seen guys try to bring in a transfer that isn't eligible until the middle of the season and have difficulty kind of getting them acclimated, right? Is he in shape at the level that you need to be in shape to compete in the SEC? Do you really want this dude in his first game where he's eligible to play college basketball doing what? Like, I'm looking at Kentucky's schedule right now. January 15th, they got Tennessee. Then they got Auburn. Then they got Kansas. Like, you're going to throw them right into the fire. And
it's different. I say this because it's different. Like, go back to Carter Witt last year. Carter Witt came in December and then tried to run over Christmas break, and then you throw him in, and his first game was on the road against Virginia. He hadn't lifted weight. He barely lifted weights. He's done anything. It's like, wait a minute. Like last week, I was playing against Asheville High School, and now I'm playing against UVA on the road. Or a guy that's transferred has been in your program already, and he just sat out until, December has been eligible. At least that guy's been practicing. He's had reps. He's familiar with everything. So the situations are different. But if you're a high school kid trying to transfer it in, you better be one of, like we talked about, it's better be Jabari, it's better be Paulo, it's better be Shet, or you're in trouble.
See, and here's the thing. I think that Shaedon might be like at that level. I don't think that he's quite as good of a prospect as those guys, but I think that he's kind of in that conversation. Jeff Goodman thinks that he's better than Zion Williamson, which is the craziest take that I've ever heard out of anybody.
I think the best part of Kentucky winning tomorrow would be the Kentucky fans getting at Goodman, because they're going to let him have it, because he's been letting them have it on about their schedule and them not beating anybody. So his mentions will be on fire if Kentucky wins.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong. Like if you're building an NCAA tournament out of a resume at this point, like Kentucky's like an 11 seed. They're probably in the tournament just because they're Kentucky and they great computer numbers. But when your best win is North Carolina on a neutral, like you haven't really beaten anybody.
When you're a crazy fan of the team, you say hold the logic. You don't, the facts and logic don't really fly. You just you are what you are. You're about your team. We don't want to hear the facts.
All right, so let's talk about the SEC kind of as a whole, because for my money, I think that this is the best conference at the top, at least the most competitive at the top, and it's the league race that I am the most excited to see. I think Kentucky's good enough to win the league. I think Auburn's good enough to win the league. I think Alabama's good enough to win the league. I think Tennessee's probably good enough to win the league. And everything we've seen from LSU tells us that they might be good enough to win the league as well. There's 5 teams there that I think are good enough to win this conference. So tell me who's the best. RC, I'm going to you first.
I'm going to Auburn. I think Auburn is the best team. I love their guard play, with Katie Johnson and Wendell Green. And I think Jabari is a matchup nightmare for just about anybody. And now that you got Kessler defending, I mean, playing against that guy at Carolina and seeing what he's doing right now, he's made a tremendous leap. I knew his reputation coming in high school. I just didn't see it last year at UNC. And to see Kessler defending, I mean, he's averaging nearly 4 blocks a game right now. They're doing it on the defensive end. We know they're going to score, but we know they're going to defend. I think getting Flanagan back, I think they're the best team right now in the league.
Yeah. Carter?
Yeah, I'll echo that too. I mean, I think they would be in the running for it before Flanagan even coming back. But with Flanagan coming back, I think this team has what it takes. I mean, you got a top 3 solidified. You can make an argument for number 1 pick in Jabari Smith. He's special. I mean, that's just the only way you can put it. He's a special type prospect. And then you have the guard play of Wendell Green, and then Katie Johnson. There's probably no other player in the country that I'd rather like go on the floor and go to war with than Katie Johnson. That dude's just a winner, a dog. What does T.O. say about him? He runs on nightmare fuel.
Yeah, nightmare fuel.
Yeah, like that's what I didn't know what nightmare fuel was until I watched Katie Johnson, and I was like, yeah, you're right. He does run on nightmare fuel.
There's never been a player that was more perfectly suited to playing for Bruce Pearl. Than Katie 100%. Johnson. But look, to me, it's Walker Kessler turning into maybe the best rim protector in college basketball is what has taken this team and turned them from being like really good to being like, okay, Auburn might actually be able to win a national title this year. And I don't think that that's a hot take, because the way that they can get out and pressure, the way that they can kind of overwhelm you with their athleticism and physicality on the perimeter, doing all that with a guy that's going to erase everything at the bucket makes you a really, really difficult defense to play against. And you combine all of that with the fact that Katie Johnson can kind of get wherever he wants, whenever he wants to. Wendell Green has shown the ability to go out and hit like 3 or 4 straight threes in a row. Alan Flanagan is a stud, is a pro, is going to play in the NBA, was a preseason all SEC guy. And oh, by the way, you got a dude by the name of Jabari Smith. Like that is a really, really good team. I really like Kentucky. I think that they're as they grow, they're going to end up being a top 10 team when things are all said and done. Alabama, they are what they are. When they're hitting, they're impossible to play against. LSU, great defensively. I'm not completely bought in, but they're better than I thought they were going to end up being. And then, you know, Tennessee they play so damn hard and they can kind of wear you down. But that Auburn team, I think that they're different.
Yeah, they're special. I think the main point of why they're special is because you just named 4 or 5 guys before you even got to their number 1 pick. Like if all else fails, if Wendell Green's off, if Katie Johnson's off, if Flanagan's off, let's throw it to our number 1 pick who's 6'10", who can score from anywhere on the floor. Like that's a great strategy. That's a great ace to have in the back pocket. Like that's a tough team.
This guy that's going to be the best player, or the number 1 pick in the draft. It's like, yeah, you know what? He's our last option.
Yeah, just go get us one, Jabari, and he will.
All right. Well, listen, guys, we've been here for an hour. This has been fun. For Randolph Childress, for Carter Elliott, for our producer, Greg Waddell. Thank you to Johnny Davis for joining us on the show. My name is Rob Dauster. This has been The Field